Shabistari says, al-Hallaj is a complete unveiling of the secrets, except for the Haq, except for the real. Who can say I am the real? Only the real can say I am the real, see? Or I am God. Only God can say I am God. All of the atoms of the world, just like Mansur al-Hallaj, you should take as ecstatic and drunk. So all the atoms are drunk, see, not just Hallaj, because drunkenness is a code for spiritually ecstatic. So in this culture, like in our culture, we might say stoned. And it could either mean the person was really like stoned, or it might be they were having a spiritual experience and they could use the word stoned. Huh? In this case, they're using wine. Huh? These atoms, they're ever in glorifying and exalting God, subsisting in the true meaning of I am the real. Now where I'm going to start the commentary is the next line. If you want this to become easy for you to understand this paradox, recite the verse, everything is praising God. Once you have carded the cotton of yourself, you too, like Hallaj, will breathe such words as these. I'm expanding a bit on the translation here. Pluck from your ears the cotton of illusion. Listen to the call of the One, the All-Powerful. That call is coming from the real without pause. Why do you wait for the day of resurrection? So this is those last few lines are the commentary. I'll keep this out here. So we start with the first line of the commentary. Again, if you'll be with your patience, I'll be reciting the Persian for the sake of the viewers, and then go to the English. So he says, Agar khwahi ke gardad bar tu asan wa in min shay'in ra yek ra furukhan. Yani agar چنانچه میخواهی که بدانی که زارت ببخشید یعنی اگر چنانچه میخواهی که بدانی که ذرات عالم مسبحند و تنزیه حق از مشارکت می نمایند. آیت کریمه و این من شیئین الا یسبح بحمده یک بار بخوان تا بدانی که همه در تسبیحند و تنزیتام چنانچه مذکور گشت آن است که ناطق و انانیت انا کردند و حمد اظهار صفات کمال الهی است. پس حمد هر یکی اظهار آن صفت باشد که خود مظهر آن صفت است و حامد حق و جمعی صفات غیر از انسان نمیتوان بود، زیرا که عارف حق و جمعی صفات اوست. So he says, if you, like the first line, if you want this to become easy for you, recite the verse, everything is praising God. Commentary. In other words, if it is such that you wish to know how it is that all the atoms of the world are glorifying God and exalting Him above association, go and read the ayah, وَإِن مِّن شَيْءٍ إِلَّا يُسَبِّحُ بِحَمْدِهِ. So literally, and there is not a thing except that it is praising God. And in a more complete sense, it says, لكن لا تفقهون تسبيحه. But you are not comprehending that it is praising God. So he says, say this and know until you know that everything is praising and glorifying and exalting. And the most complete exaltation is such as has been previously pointed out in this book. Complete exaltation and glorification is such that the speaker should express this in the form of self-worship by saying, I am the true reality, rather than he is the true reality, for example. And praise and thanks, which is hamd, is the showing, or is the manifestation of the perfect qualities and attributes of God. Thus, the praise and glorification of each one is the manifestation of that particular quality that is inherent as the showplace for that divine quality. And the praising and glorification of God through all of the qualities cannot be attained or achieved except through the human reality, because the true knower of reality in its fullness is equipped with all of the divine names, meaning it's inherently equipped with all of the divine names. So this is the first line, and the thing that I would like to add to this, I've talked about before with some of you, and I would like to look at this a little bit with you from the Sufi point of view. And I'm going to, again, resort to a system of Sufi commentary and overlay in the understanding of the particular concept or doctrine. And so what we want to understand is, first of all, if we think about what he's saying, so we could take it on trust. There is not a thing, in min shay'in, there is not a thing, a particle, bar of soap, a table, human being, there is not a thing, in min shay'in, illa yusabihu bihamdihi, except that it is praising God. See? وَلَكِنْ لَا تَفْقَهُونَ تَسْبِيحَهُ, but you are not able to comprehend it. So, okay, I guess I would have to take it on trust. I've taken on trust that everything is praising God. Or, so we say, no, you don't have to take it on trust. You can experience this. You could develop a consciousness that allows you to see that every leaf is praising God, every atom is praising God, that everything is praising God. And so the way that they consider this is that there'll be, so praising in the sense of thanking and praising is hamd, you see? Because he's focusing on this verse, but he's interested in particular in the idea of hamd. Huh? And God has a divine name. What's his divine name for this? Hamid. Huh? Hamid. He has other names, but very specifically, this is Hamid. Huh? Okay, Hamid. Now, Abjad for Hamid, 8, 40, 10, 4. 62, yes. 62. 62. And the Sufis, they are looking, they're not looking to create false metaphysics or something. They're looking for associations that have the right mnemonic and right resonance with the doctrine that they're looking at. They don't claim one way or another that they're right about. They're just noticing the obvious, you see. So so we have another word, huh? Is this one of the names? Yeah. What's this mean? Something hidden. And in fact, do we see it in some important verses? How about Sabaha lillahi ma fi samawati wal ard wa huwa al-azizul hakim lahu mulku samawati wal ard yuhyi wa yumitu, right? Huwa al-awwalu wal akhiru wa zahiru wal batin, correct? And then wa huwa ala kulli shay'in alim, huh? So, batin means implicit, inherent, hidden. In this context, we have the idea of implicit. This equals, huh? So we have 2, 1, 9, and 50. See? So this is a Sufi system of making associations. And the association here is to understand that inherently the reason the atoms are all praising God is because inherently and implicitly they are God. See? Because if God says, Huwa al-awalu wal-akhiru wa-zahiru wal-batin, because God says, speaking of himself, he often says he. For the pronouns he may use as he is the first and the last, and he is the outer and the inner. And you can imagine the theologians having a field day with this one, huh? But if you take it just literally for what God is saying, he's saying he is the reality of all of these things. But in the hidden reality, what the Sufis wish to say here is he is one, always, he is Hamid. He is Hamid. See? He is praiseworthy. Correct? He is Hamid. He is praiseworthy. And so what I've explained before, including in gatherings at Threshold and so forth, is that this is the essence of the matter, and a person could become Abdul Hamid, but they could also become Mahmud. So in other words, you can become the servant of Hamid, and you can become Abdul Hamid, you can become Mahmud, which is praiseworthy. You can become Hamed, you see, somebody who is praising. But Hamid is God's inherent property, being praiseworthy. But he is himself praising himself in every second and every moment. And who would know better than he that everything is praising? And the commentator says, and yes, and praising through a specific quality. The thorn is praising in a different way, because the doctrine is very beautiful. The doctrine says everything is just as it is. Vicious, beautiful, loving, vengeful. They are inherently what they are. And at a profound level, they are all praiseworthy, because they are actualizing the names, the divine names. And the divine names, in case they seem strange or odd to you, I don't know if any of you have read the Bhagavad Gita, but if you read the Bhagavad Gita, which is the Indian one of the great Indian holy books, which is basically found from the story in the Mahabharata. Arjuna is crestfallen. He has to fight his own relatives. And he's sad and depressed, and Krishna comes forward, and Krishna is a God incarnate. And he says, let me ease your mind. Let me ease your mind. This is your job. You must do this. They've all assembled out there. And he says, no, I can't do it. I can't do it. Krishna says, listen, I've decided to kill them all anyway. You can read for yourself. This is like, what? This is a spiritual, this is a great holy book. Krishna, who's the God incarnate, says, I've decided to kill them all anyway. So you better just get with the program and not be so sad. This is part of the nature of things. There's creation, there's destruction. Meaning this is, in every realistic metaphysics of the world, if it's not going to be dualistic, then the true reality has to be the origin in one way or another of all of the things that we experience, whether it's through privation, as in the privation of good, could be evil, but not that there could be an actual struggle for evil, which is often what happens in people's mind, dualistic mind, whether they're Christian or Muslim or not. So this is the metaphysics of Tawheed and of Wahadat, and therefore all things are praising, because he is praising at the internal implicit level. See, this equal this, abjad. So the Sufis make this connection, okay? And so before we go to any question, I'm going to do one more commentary, one more line, and then we can take a moment of question, because that way there'll be more information to talk about. So this next line, the English was, once you have carded the cotton of yourself, you too, like Hallaj, will breathe such words. چو کردی خویشتن را پنبکاری، تو هم حلاجوار این دم برآری. بدان که توحید علمی نوع دیگر است و توحید عیانی شهودی نوع دیگر. توحید علمی آن است که بدانند که غیر از حق هیچ موجود نیست و اشیا مظاهر حقند و به صورت همه اوست که ظاهر گشت است و اشیا با زبان حال ناطق با کلمه انا الحقند، بر آن معنا که قائم با وجود حقند و به او عدمند. و اما توحید عیانی کشفی که بر منصور حلاج ظاهر گشته است، چنانچه مکررن ذکر آن رفت موقوف بدان است که سالک بر طریق تصفیه و مقامی برسد که تعین و هستی مجازی وی که پرده جمال الهی گشته مانع مشاهده بود، محو و فانی گشته به خود را حق دیده با لسان حق ناطق با نطق انا الحق گردد. و لحاظا فرمود که چو کردی خویشتن را پنبکاری، یعنی چون وجود خیالی خود را برهم زدی و از هم فرو ریختی و از قید تعین و کثافت خلاص یافتی. هر آینه که تو نیست مانند منصور این دم انالحق برآری و به عمل حلاجی ناطق و نطق وی گردد. So, here he says, you should understand that the issue here is going to be again about duality or unity. And he's interested in explaining what we just talked about, unity. Either it's a dualistic system that's perfectly, it's not implausible, it's just a question. You wish the one or the other one, it's up to you. There's nothing there, there's a unity there, there's dual, but this view is a Unitarian view. The source of all things, good and bad, coming from one source. And this understanding of this and arriving at this understanding is called Tawheed, because he is already Wahed, he is already Ahad in the divine names, and Tawheed is the actualization at some level, mental understanding, personal experiential understanding that everything is one. This is not at all unique to Sufism. This is the purpose of Zen Buddhism. This is the purpose of Advaita. This is many of these traditions, they choose that they're Unitarian traditions. And so here he's starting immediately with this word. He says, you should know that there is the mental tawheed, meaning there's a mental unification or unification at the level of knowledge. It's one kind, and you should know that there is unification that is shuhudi, meaning it is in your consciousness you've achieved unification. In your awareness, it's ayani. It is seen by you, it is witnessed by you, and it is known in your very consciousness that there's only one thing. This would, again, if you say there's no distinction here between the Sufi mystic at that moment and one of the great Chinese or Japanese Zen Buddhists. There's no distinction whatsoever. They have the same idea. They realize suddenly the duality was a myth, and it suddenly vanishes. And they realize there was only one event, one consciousness, etc. So he says, in more detail, the mental unification is such that people come to know that other than the true reality, there is no other reality or existence. And the things are the show places. The word is mazahir, so there's zuhur, which means the manifestation, the appearance, but they have to have a place to appear in. So these would be like mirrors, theaters, show places. So literally it would be show places, which is fine. No? And so he says the person at a mental level comes to know that except for the haq, through consideration, through careful consideration, there's no other existence, and that the things, they are the show places of true reality. And it is through the forms of all of these things, it is he, meaning true reality, it is it that has appeared and manifested. And the things, ashya, which were part of the verse quoted earlier, he says, through the tongue of their state, bazaban hal, through the tongue of their state, they they are speaking the words, I am the true reality. Each and everything is essentially saying, I am the true reality. Because if not, there would be another reality alongside of it. See? So the person has grasped the idea philosophically. It is not impossible in Sufism nor in other traditions that a person could have a limited or partial awakening. In any of the mystical traditions, they could have a complete awakening or they could have a partial awakening. A partial awakening might prepare them for a complete awakening. So the partial awakening, maybe such a thing is here, because Shabistari acknowledges throughout, which not all of the Sufi mystics do, he acknowledges that there is a place for the light of reason, he calls it. See? So elsewhere in the book, he describes the light of reason, meaning of mind, and he talks about the light of revelation. See, so two different kinds of experiences. So here he's following in that pattern, and he says the things are then saying, because he got to this is the ioni, this is the one that the person is actually experiencing. He says through the tongue of their state, they are saying al-Hallaj, in the sense that they are sustained by the existence of reality. And without that sustaining, they are utter non-being. They have no existence. So that was the first one, where there's an experience, but it's a partial awakening. And he says now the greater awakening, or the unification that is directly witnessed and filling one's consciousness and one's experience, and happens through disclosure, kashf. He says this is the state of Mansur al-Hallaj. It's the greater awakening, see? Greater awakening. This manifested in Hallaj, and like has been repeated again and again in this book, because Hallaj will come up all over in Sufism because it's one of the hottest subjects in the controversy between Islamic mysticism versus Muslim belief at the level of practice. It's the same thing as the difference between the level of obeying God versus the level of intimately loving and interacting with God. So these are controversies that have been from the beginning in the religion, and as I said, not just the religion of Islam. So he says, since there's been many times talked about in this book, it's based upon Malkuf Badan. See, so it is based upon the fact that the seeker, Salek, traveler, spiritual traveler, by way of purification, tasfiyah, reaches a stage, maqami, in which its entity, and we could say its individuality, its existence, illusory existence, which had been the veil of had been preventing, because it was veiling the divine beauty. Because in all cases this would be about discovering the origin of beauty, discovering the origin of beauty. See? So, and this individuation, this entity, self-entity, imaginary existence, has been preventing, he says, preventing the witnessing of this beauty. And when it becomes effaced and annihilated through this loss of self-objectification, the awareness is witnessing directly the true reality, the haq. And necessarily through the voice of the haq, through the speech of the haq, this person says, I am the true reality. Obviously, because it has no other frame of reference. So again, mysticism does not propose the passing out with no knowledge, except that the clock has moved its arms. It proposes that there is the continuity of experience of a completely different order. There's experience, but it is not experienced through the limitation of one's familiar personhood. Another way we could say it is this is the outshining. One's normal way of understanding and seeing an experience is outshined by this experience. So therefore, that is why the poet says, once you have carted away from yourself the cotton of self, and he says, in other words, when the imaginary existence that you had, you have caused its illusion to collapse. You've destroyed the illusion. And it has withered away or drained away. It is dissipated. And once you have found escape, you have escaped from the grip of illusory entity, self-entity, certainly then you also, like Mansur al-Hallaj, you have no option. You will say these words, I am the true reality.